when you punch at the United States of America, President Trump is going to punch back harder.
Tonight on Cronkite News, the White House reacts after China slaps a new round of tariffs on the United States. How the stock market reacted tonight.
Plus, how massive cuts to the Department of Health and Human Services could impact residents here in Arizona.
And the Masters begins tomorrow, and there's some top talent from ASU who are playing in the annual prestigious tournament. Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Jacob Seaver.
And I'm Leslie Chapman. Thank you for joining us.
Today, President Donald Trump ordered a 90-day pause on some new tariffs. But Trump raised the tariffs on China to 125%, citing what he called Beijing's lack of respect. The U.S. Treasury Secretary talked about the move late today.
So every country in the world who wants to come and negotiate, we are willing to hear you. We're going to go down to a 10% baseline tariff for them, and China will be raised to 125 due to their insistence on escalation.
The move comes after China announced its own retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods to the tune of 84%. According to the White House, 75 other countries reached out to Trump and the administration to negotiate better trade deals. There were worries of a recession due to the trade war, but the markets rebounded after the news, with the Dow jumping almost 3,000 points.
Well, just last week, President Trump announced tariffs on all imports from the European Union, which were supposed to go into effect today. At this point, it's unclear if these tariffs will stand, but I was able to take a look into how these tariffs might impact the Arizona wine industry. Arizona's wine industry has seen significant growth over the last 2 decades. But could President Donald Trump's tariffs against the European Union threaten to disrupt this growth?
The barrels we buy are imported from France generally, so going to be hit with the EU tariffs there. Screw caps we use, or corks, other folks use, same thing. Those are out of Europe. And then in terms of bottles, generally in the industry, they're coming out of Mexico.
This glass of wine costs about $18, and it costs about $2 or $3 to make here at Flying Leap Vineyards. But with tariffs from President Donald Trump on wines from the European Union, this glass could go up in price, but maybe not for the reasons that you would expect. Mark Barris, president, CEO, and founder at Flying Leap Vineyards, says that tariffs are the least of his concerns.
The general market problems facing the wine industry are the Mount Everest, and tariffs are the little molehill over here, right? So if you're a winery today, I don't get up in the morning with a concern about the president's tariffs, right? I mean, he's the boss, he gets to make the decision, and if that's what they want to do, okay. But it doesn't really impact me. But Barris did say that their prices could rise by 5 to 7%. Last month, Trump posted to Truth Social threatening a 200% tariff on all alcoholic products imported from the European Union in response to the EU's proposed 50% tariffs on all U.S. whiskey. While those tariffs didn't happen, tariffs for lower amounts are still being imposed. But Callaghan says that he remains optimistic for the future of the Arizona wine industry.
Arizona wine industry is pretty resilient. And yes, we're in a relatively rough patch for us, having basically, the industry's been on a growth curve for whatever it's been, 20 years, basically. So you're bound to see a dip here and there, but I think we'll be able to ride it out.
Well, as Arizona's wine industry navigates these challenges, Barris and Callaghan say only time will tell if the president's planned tariffs will be beneficial for their wineries.
The U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., visited the Arizona Capitol yesterday. He was advocating for 2 bills which Arizona lawmakers had just passed and will soon land on Governor Katie Hobbs' desk. His visit to the Valley was part of his Make America Healthy Again tour. Kennedy highlighted obesity and malnutrition in America and connected it to there being an epidemic of ultra-processed foods. He claimed that food in America used to be full of nutrients. Now he said it's, quote, nutrient barren. He also compared the current state of health care to the one during his uncle's presidency.
My uncle's president, we spent zero nationally on chronic disease. There were no treatments. Today, we spend $1.3 trillion a year.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration is slashing the budget of HHS, cutting 24% of full-time staff and cutting regional divisions in half. Leah Phillips is in the newsroom with more about how the efforts in D.C. may make their way to our state.
While we may not feel the immediate effects of those staffing changes here in Arizona, federally funded organizations could be taking a hit due to proposed spending shifts. As part of these new efforts, the federal government proposed a termination of $12 billion worth of federal health grants all across the nation. And what could that mean for Arizona? Well, that's $200 million worth of federal grants here in our state lost. However, the $12 billion cut has been temporarily barred after 23 states, including Arizona, filed a lawsuit against the HHS. So why propose the cuts in the first place? Well, one major argument for the HHS is that it wants to halt funding for grants that began or received extra funding during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, as part of the multi-state lawsuit, states like Arizona argue these grants serve a broader purpose, like helping to combat a variety of infectious diseases, like the rise of the measles and bird flu. And that termination of these grants could put vital organizations that rely on this funding at risk. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays releasing statements calling these proposed funding changes a, quote, all-out attack on Arizona's public health system. Meanwhile, HHS department officials say these efforts should benefit taxpayers in an effort to make government agencies more efficient, with HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy making a statement about the changes and stating, quote, this department will do more, a lot more at a lower cost to the taxpayer. At the touchscreen, Leah Phillips, back to you guys at the desk.
Coming up next, Arizona is known for its beautiful skies, but those skies can sometimes be full of pollution.
That's right, and some local communities experience more pollution than others. How this air quality is affecting those communities throughout the valley, and what's next on Cronkite News.
And I'm Isaiah Soto. If you spend any time outside tonight, you know the weather has been beautiful, but that's going to change tomorrow with a shot at our first 100-degree day this year. I'll have your first full forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Welcome back. An index that measures the strength of the dollar against major currencies hit a 6-month low. According to economists, higher U.S. tariffs typically boost the dollar by lowering demand on foreign goods. After Trump's new tariffs came into effect, the dollar's strength against major currencies was down 0.9%. And there are many factors that could be behind the decline, such as shaken investor faith.
Cornell and Northwestern universities have been hit by funding cuts, which someone in the Trump administration says the cuts are connected to a Title VI investigation. A White House official says the Trump administration is cutting $790 million from Northwestern and more than $1 billion from Cornell. Other schools across the nation have received funding cuts because of issues like DEI programs and how they handled protests against the war in Gaza. The university said they've seen reports of the cuts but have not been officially notified. Meanwhile, the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality has issued a high pollution advisory for today and is urging people to drive less or carpool.
But unfortunately, poor air quality is a reality for many in our state, with some 84% of Arizonans living in areas with unhealthy air. Cronkite News reporter Alana Goodman joins us now from downtown Phoenix with more on some of the worst areas to be and when it comes to pollution.
The Environmental Protection Agency is rescinding guidance after meeting with Maricopa County and local partners. I spoke with experts about how air pollution is negatively affecting communities.
A thick yellow haze often blankets the valley, driven by pollutants like particulate matter and ozone. A Harvard study finds that certain groups in the U.S., including Black, Asian, Hispanic, and low-income populations, experience higher levels of particulate pollution compared to other groups.
You know, even though overall there's been improvements in air quality, or at least in certain areas up until the wildfires, there haven't really been improvements in the disparities.
Low-income communities are often situated near industrial areas, leading to pollution that negatively impacts air quality.
Many lower-income communities and communities of color are facing higher levels of local pollution sources, whether, again, that's diesel exhaust or emissions from power plants. And the presence on a regular basis of higher levels of pollution adds to those already, experienced health challenges.
Geography, in addition to industrial areas, affects air pollution levels.
Low-income neighborhoods in Arizona, and also this is around the country, tend to have to be in the parts of town that are catchment areas with worse air pollutants. So it's part of it is geography, but part of it is that low-income neighborhoods end up bearing the burden of additional highways and freeways.
According to the American Lung Association, Phoenix ranks among the most polluted cities in the country for ozone and particulate pollution. The health effects of pollution include heart problems, asthma, lung cancer, and respiratory issues.
If you live next to a freeway, there's not a whole lot, you can't move the freeway, but what you can do is to keep the freeways cleaner and to continue to press for better emission standards.
Experts recommend limiting outdoor activities and exercising indoors to reduce health effects of pollution. In Phoenix, Alana Goodman, Cronkite News.
In addition, 83% of Arizona voters view air pollution as a serious problem, according to the American Lung Association. For Cronkite News, I'm Alana Goodman. Back to Leslie and Jacob at the desk.
Thanks, Alana. Well, if you are planning on spending any time outside, just know it's going to be warm.
That's right. And Isaiah Soto now joins us from the Cronkite Weather Center with more on these rising temps.
Yes, it's been a few warm days here in the valley, but it is just getting started. As tomorrow we may be reaching triple digits. Let's take a close look at tonight's weather and what we have going on for the rest of the week. As for this evening, things will be cooling down to 83 degrees with a slight breeze coming in from the west. Now, if you're planning to go on a stroll, this is perfect temperature to do so. Now, as we get into tomorrow morning, low temperatures here in the state, 68 in Phoenix, 58 in Casa Grande, 61 in Tucson. Now, north of the rim, 36 in Flagstaff, 40 in Holbrook. Now, as we get into tomorrow afternoon, things will be heating up. And as I mentioned, triple digits are on the horizon. Forecasted for Phoenix, 100 degrees, 101 in Gila Bend, 101 in Yuma. Now, in the high country, 75 in Flagstaff, 85 in Holbrook. Now, as we get into our 8-day forecast, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, triple-digit weather with 100 on Thursday. The average for this time of year is around 84 degrees. We don't typically see 100-degree weather until the first week of May. Now, for the rest of the week, things will be dropping down to 94 with overcast skies on Sunday and Monday. Now, as a reminder, if you are planning to go outside this weekend, of course, make sure to stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and of course, pay attention to any heat advisories. From the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Isaiah Soto.
Coming up next, Phoenix hosted the annual Celebrity Slam Jam at GCU.
NBA legends were out on the court coaching and exchanging some friendly trash talk.
We should win this. Hopefully we win this. I think they've been cheating. They got a few extra people they shouldn't have.
Witness all the celebrities, athletes, and influencers at Global Credit Union Arena after the break.
What Cronkite News means to me is opportunity.
We do news right at Cronkite News, serving a community ethically, honestly, and truthfully.
And we can provide a necessarily different angle, different voice for those people that really need it.
The students, they have a lot of passion for journalism.
I get to do a lot of stories about the Hispanic community.
And we have access to cover all of these sorts of events and get media coverage of all these different personalities and athletes, and that's just a huge thing.
But it's also a chance for people here to be humanized. Individuals of all walks of life.
Cronkite News will help take the next generation of journalists onto their next careers.
I am old enough to remember Walter Cronkite.
We're putting a lot of pride on his name because we are practicing a lot of the things that he did.
I think he'd be smiling from ear to ear.
I.
We are Cronkite.
Welcome to the Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Andres Armenta. We begin with the Masters Tournament starting tomorrow at Augusta National Golf Club in Georgia. And there's a handful of players with Arizona state ties trying to capture this year's green jacket. Cronkite Sports reporter Ben Paris has more on the quartet of Sun Devils.
The azaleas are in full bloom at Augusta National Golf Club as 4 Sun Devils are set to compete in the 89th edition of the Masters Tournament and try to deliver a green jacket to Tempe for the 5th time. Let's start with Jon Rahm, who's just 2 years removed from his 2023 Masters victory. The Spaniard has never missed the cut in his career at Augusta National, but was not satisfied with his T45 finish as the defending champion last year. He said he was looking forward to a fresh start in the majors in 2025. While Rahm is the latest Sun Devil to put on the green jacket, it is Phil Mickelson who's had the most success at Augusta National Golf Club, winning the Masters in 2004, 2006, and 2010. Lefty will make his 32nd Masters start this week, and while there may be questions if he can still contend at 54 years old, you must remember that in 2023, he finished runner-up to Rahm, making it the highest finish by a player over 50 in tournament history, and just the second time that one school had players finish first and second in the same year. Meanwhile, Kevin Yu will be one of 2 Sun Devils making his Masters debut, doing so at age 26. He earned the spot in the Masters by winning the Sanderson Farms Championship in October, and while he's playing at Augusta National for the first time, he's no stranger to major championship golf. Yu qualified and played in 3 straight U.S. Opens while he was at Arizona State. Now for Josele Ballester, who's not an alum like his Sun Devil peers, but a senior still on the ASU roster, making his Masters debut as an amateur thanks to his victory in the U.S. Amateur Championship last summer. Ballester shares the same Spanish roots as Rahm and played in a practice round with him on Tuesday to gain some intel from the former champ. The pursuit of the green jacket for the Sun Devils begins bright and early when Kevin Yu goes off in the second grouping of the day at 8:02 a.m. Eastern Time. Mickelson will go off in the group ahead of Ballester, while Rahm will get play underway at 1:34 p.m. Eastern. In the studio, Ben Paris, Cronkite News.
Thanks, Ben. And a bit more news coming out of Augusta this week. Check this out. ASU golf coach Matt Thurman was removed from the golf course for violating a dress code rule. Thurman went to say hello to former ASU golfer Kevin Yu before getting escorted out for wearing shorts. Thurman learned the hard way from Augusta's strict rules. He later tweeted, "Strolled out onto the Augusta range today with my coach badge, got removed for wearing shorts. First bogey of the week, celebrated with an egg salad sandwich, pants tomorrow." Now from the greens to the tennis courts, where a Grand Canyon University player has been making serious waves this season. Sophomore Nikita Volonsky has been on a tear. The Sydney, Australian native has been leading his team to victories in both singles and in doubles. He boasts a 9-3-3 record as the #1 player in singles for the Lopes, plus a respectable 6-6-3 record in doubles. GCU currently holds the top spot in the Western Athletic Conference, in part due to his clutch wins over conference rivals. Volonsky's goals won't stop just at GCU, though, as he's got his sights set on the next level of tennis accomplishments.
I've got a few goals. I want to try get All-American status. I want to compete in the NCAA championships, hopefully not just once but twice. I want to get ranked inside the top 50, and then if I get there, just keep going further and further. But overall, I just want to become the best version of myself.
GCU will certainly have their work cut out for them as they take on the University of Texas San Antonio on Sunday before a quick turnaround and heading to Arlington, Texas for the WAC tournament. At Chase Field, the Diamondbacks won their game yesterday against the Baltimore Orioles to even up the series, but not without a controversial call that fired the Snakes up. The D-back star Corbin Carroll kept his average over 300 and helped his team tie up the game with a towering solo home run. But a controversial check swing call by first base umpire Laz Diaz going the way of the Orioles was not taken so lightly by D-back skipper Torey Lovullo. Nope, Lovullo got tossed, but he got his money's worth, don't worry about that, in a heated exchange with Diaz. Despite it all, the D-backs held their lead and grounded the Orioles 4-3. The two teams finished up their game earlier today to finish out the three-game series. The D-backs won 9-0, a shutout victory and a second win of the season for their starter, Brandon Pfaadt. Celebrity Sweat was back in Phoenix as they hosted their annual Celebrity Jam at GCU. The event was held in support of military members and first responders. Cronkite News reporter DeWeed Gabramariam was at Global Credit Arena for the game.
The Celebrity Slam Jam was hosted to families and fans of all ages as they witnessed their favorite stars shine on the court. Each team was coached by NBA legends Sean Marion and Mike Bibby, who participated in some friendly trash talk prior to the game.
We should win this. Hopefully we win this. I think they've been cheating. They got a few extra people they shouldn't have.
The event was packed with athletes, celebrities, and influencers, including former UFC champion and GCU alumni Henry Cejudo, who was excited to be back at his alma mater.
It's amazing, bro, to be out. This is my old alma mater, and it's just cool to see all the fans come in, bro. An all-star event taking place, giving back to the family, the kids, the whole nine. I'm about to eat a hot dog here in a little bit. Watch it with my wife, dude. This is awesome.
The crowd at GCU was electric all game as they came out to support. Their passion and excitement displayed the impact that this event has had on the Phoenix community.
I've been to some of their cause games before, so coming here and especially for the cause that they're doing it for, the gym's gonna be rocking.
The game came down to the wire, but ultimately Team Marion prevailed as they won 119-114. An all-around great event to help support a great cause. In Phoenix, Dowie Gabramariam, Cronkite News.
The event was held in support of active military at Luke Air Force Base and military veterans with the Operation Warrior Wishes Foundation. That's it for the Cronkite Sports Report. Back to Leslie and Jacob at the desk.
Coming up next, an unlikely partnership has formed.
Yeah, a legendary athlete is branching out into a new light. When we return, how LeBron James is taking his success to a new arena when we return to Cronkite News.
What Cronkite News means to me is opportunity.
We do news right at Cronkite News, serving a community ethically, honestly, and truthfully.
And we can provide a necessarily different angle, different voice for those people that really need it.
The students, they have a lot of passion for journalism.
I get to do a lot of stories about the Hispanic community.
And we have access to cover all of these sorts of events and get media coverage of all these different personalities and athletes, and that's just a huge thing.
But it's also a chance for people here to be humanized, individuals of all walks of life.
Cronkite News will help take the next generation of journalists onto their next careers.
I am old enough to remember Walter Cronkite.
We're putting a lot of pride on his name because we are practicing a lot of the things that he did.
I think he'd be smiling from ear to ear.
I.
We are Cronkite.
And finally tonight, Mattel has added LeBron James to their team.
That's right. Mattel announced that they will be creating a new Ken Ambassador male doll line. LeBron James, along with his foundation, is partnering with Mattel to create this line. As well, LeBron will also be the first one to get a doll in his likeness. James worked closely with Mattel to create his doll, and the doll is set to be available to the public on April 14th. Well, that's it for tonight's edition of Cronkite News. I'm Leslie Chapman.
And I'm Jacob Seaver. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And to see top Arizona stories anytime, log on to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.